Pursuant to Section 84-1412 of the Nebraska statutes, the public is hereby informed that a current copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is located in the board meeting room on the north wall. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss the budget. So at this time, we'll turn it over to Ms. Connie Kanoki to share with us information on the budget. And really, this is kind of a new thing that we've done. Mrs. Fay and I have been sitting on the budget committee and going through information, and I think it's a good idea for the whole board as one of our main responsibilities to approve the budget, to have a more clear understanding. And with Connie being new to the table and making some changes, it also is helpful for all of us to get a better understanding. So thank you, Connie.
Okay. I'm going to go through the budget development process with you to explain how it was built and what we did, and then if you have any questions along the way, feel free to ask them, and we can go over that. So the first thing is the budget timeline that we have, and in July and August we're going to have board budget workshops where we can meet with you and talk with you about different things about the budget. Today's our first initial budget presentation that we're doing. We plan to have a budget hearing on August 17th and also adopt the budget at that time. And property tax valuations are certified on August 20th. We get the learning community common levy proceeds on September 1st. And then on September 20th, the budget is due to be filed with the state and the county and the auditor of public accounts. So to begin with the development process, we first look at the general fund balances to see where we've been. And I gave a 5-year history of what the balances have been. And in 2011, we had a $50 million general fund balance. Then it dropped down to $49 million. And in 2013, it went up to 61. And then 2014, it went up to $75 million. And 2014 was when the bond was issued. So it was very helpful for us to get favorable rates, that we had a good fund balance, because they look at the unassigned general fund balance. So now in 2015, based on June data, it's projected to be about $58 million. And I looked at the most recent spreadsheet, and now it's looking like 61. So it's going to be kind of fluctuating. All of this is just preliminary at this point, but we're monitoring the balances, making sure that we don't dip too far, and seeing what we can do to make sure that balance is as high as it needs to be. In 2014, the unassigned cash balance was about 10.5%, something like that. And now, based on this current projection, it's dropped down to 8%. And the reason for this fluctuation was last year there was a $21 million increase that went to all of the buildings for discretionary funding. So it really dipped into our cash balance. We didn't have enough revenues to cover that, so that's impacted what we have now for our balance. And if we go for another issue in 2016, we'll have to try to make sure that our balance is up as high as we can get it, so that we get a favorable rate once again. So. Okay, so what I do when I first develop the budget is try to estimate what the revenues are going to be. So we have, along with the business officials in the learning community, we get a projection of what the valuations are going to be from all the counties. And then we also get a projection of what the values will be for the learning community. So based on that data from meeting with the other business officials, this is the preliminary projections of what our tax proceeds are going to be for the coming year. And then we know our state aid number, the $213 million, that was certified in February, so that's not going to change. Based on historical data, I estimated the state receipts to be about $47 million and other local to be about $39 million. And then we have county receipts and miscellaneous. So our total estimated revenue for the whole budget is $555,232,000. So there isn't any more money. So if we spend more than this, then we have to dip into cash balance again. There's not going to be any more coming in. So this is just what we're projecting to have for revenues this coming year. So to get a picture of what this does is the yellow on that pie chart is property taxes. So half of our revenues come from property taxes. And then about a quarter of our revenue then comes from state aid, from state funding, and then we get the rest of it from other state, that would be like special education and homestead exemption, the property tax credit stuff, apportionment. That's the other state, and then we have federal sources. So that's a picture of what our revenues look like, and then I've compared what we budgeted in 14-15 compared to what we're budgeting for 15-16. So overall, I'm projecting about a 7% increase in our revenues, and that's based on state aid going up 13%, and then our values have gone up a little bit, and so taking all that into consideration, that's where we're at with the $555 million. So when we do the budget development, we have to have parameters. We have to figure out what we're going to use for salaries and what we're going to use for the valuations and all of that. And so with the district negotiated contracts, when we originally did the budget development, because this starts way before now. And so when we first started, we had budgeted 3.5% increase across the board for everybody. And then after the teachers' negotiations went up to 5%, we increased the teachers' salaries and then decreased the salaries for all the other groups to 3.5%. So what we're trying to do, when you have 8,000 employees or 10,000 employees, is try to just get an estimate of what's going to be happening with salaries, which is our biggest expense. It's about 80% of what we spend is on salaries. So overall, for the district negotiated contracts, it's about a 4% increase that we had going forward. The valuation estimate from the learning community estimates that the value for the entire learning community is going up by about 5%. And the OPS valuation is projected to go up 2.9%, which is really good because in the past it's been negative or close to zero. So it's favorable for us this year that our value's been going up. So in the budget development process, I'm basing it on a 95-cent learning community levy, and that OPS would be using the 10-cent maximum that we have too. So this is for the general fund, and that's just our development parameters, just so you know how we came about this. Okay, our biggest budget increases in addition to salary would be instructional materials and the textbook adoption cycle that we have, and then also technology as far as network computers for staff and students, as well as the infrastructure and the cable and data and all of that. So for the investment on instructional materials, for communication and information systems, there's a graduation requirement that we offer that in 2015-16. So the estimated cost is $564,000. For high school business and personal finance, the graduation requirement is that you offer that course, and so they're estimating that to cost $420,000. Social studies for the 5th grade is estimated to cost $1 million. And then writing language arts is estimated to be $2 million for K through 5. So overall, they're projecting a $4 million increase for textbooks. And for writing and language arts, that hasn't been updated since 2008. So we're really behind on our adoption cycle. Previously, this was being paid for out of the Medicaid fund. And there is only a set amount of dollars in that fund, and once that's gone, there's nowhere else to get it from. So now we're budgeting for that in the general fund, and the most we could afford at this time was the $4 million increase. They had projected, I think, $9 million for the textbook, but we just couldn't come up with enough funds for that. So that's what we're doing with the textbook adoption cycle. And then for technology, the PeopleSoft upgrade, right now we're at the end of the cycle for the PeopleSoft that we use for our district. So we're estimating $2 million for an upgrade, and then an additional $1 million in software equipment and training for this upgrade. And funding options for this include the ESU and the depreciation fund, that we can use those funds to pay for this. For the instructional materials, to pay for the $4 million that we're projecting,